Hey there, welcome to the channel. This is Cafenicus, and today's World of Warships video will feature a game in the Devonshire, the Tier 6 Tech Tree Royal Navy Heavy Cruiser. This is a Tier 6 only game on the map Strait, with 2 carriers and 3 battleships on each team. I spawned southeast, so I'm going to try to get to the southern edge of the map to get side shots into anyone pushing the G and H line. Unfortunately, with carriers in play, it'll be pretty hard to use my concealment in a relatively open map like this, as we'll see in a moment. So let's start with the strengths and weaknesses of the Devonshire. This ship has 8 203mm guns in 4 double turrets, meaning you have 2 extra guns on a broadside compared to its predecessor, the Hawkins. These are also larger caliber, so they hit harder than the Hawkins. In fact, the HE shells on the Devonshire have some of the highest damage for a Tech Tree Tier 6 cruiser, along with the Alba. Unfortunately, your range hasn't really changed. You still have a terrible 14km maximum firing range compared to the abysmal 13.9km on the Hawkins. It also has 4 torpedoes per side with an 8km range, again a bit of a step up over the Hawkins. The AA is okay at short ranges of about 2 kilometers, but this is certainly no Pensacola or Dallas. The 11.5 kilometer base detection, which you can reduce to an excellent 10.1 kilometers with captain skills and camo, is certainly a huge plus factor for the ship though. And finally, the Devonshire's huge HP pool of 34.4k is second only to the Trento among the Tech Tree cruisers at Tier 6. Throw in the repair party and this significantly increases the Devonshire's survivability as long as you don't get taken out with a devastating strike. You can see the example of the Devonshire's AA in action here as the Ranger tried to send planes around me. Since those planes didn't get into my close range AA bubble, I didn't really do much against them. However, they did spot me for the enemy team, which meant I had to take evasive maneuvers. But we can also see the power of the Devonshire's guns as I shot at that floating citadel, the Pensacola. I switched to AP expecting a nice juicy broadside shot and was rewarded with 3 citadels and 15k damage. Unfortunately, it's not all sunshine and roses with the Devonshire. The armor feels like a full-on downgrade compared to the Hawkins, with only 16mm of frontal and aft plating. The deck amidships is decent at 27mm, with an upper belt of 25mm and the citadel plating of 114, which you can bait shots against. However, do be careful as battleships will have no trouble overmatching you head-on, and even destroyers can get through your bow and stern with HE. So I feel that this ship definitely relies on avoiding shells rather than tanking them. The Devonshire is also on the slower side with a maximum speed of 32.8 knots with a speed flag. The rudder shift is decent once you have the upgraded hull and with steering gears mod 1 mounted at 6.3 seconds, but the turning radius remains largish at 710 meters. Anyway, let's get back to the game. The carrier planes spotting me initially ruined my surprise, even though I did get a nice shot off on the Pensacola. However, I had to disengage and make a circle in order to not take the brunt of fire from the enemy team. And this coupled with my poor firing range meant that I was ineffective for a little bit of time. I am now pushing back in towards the enemy team and shooting against the Gnevny, but I'm not giving really enough lead as the Gnevny is a very quick target, and I'm shooting towards the upper end of my range. We're also down 3 ships to 2 as our Alba was able to sink the enemy Bojani, and the Prince Eitel Friedrich is now focusing on me having taken out our Makarov, so I'm gonna dodge, then try to use my concealment to disappear and back away. There's no way I can bow tank this ship, so my plan is to get a bit of range and try to burn him down with HE. My turn does bring me into detection range though, so I'm spotted and I decide to see if I can get some damage out on the Gnevny as I pull away. Unfortunately, it looks like my shells miss, and I get overmatched by the Friedrich through the aft quarter, and that looks like a citadel right through my aft plating. The Devonshire's repair party does heal up to 50% citadel damage though, so that helps a bit. And I can also start shooting back at that battleship. We're gonna continue firing and wiggling to avoid any of his return shells, and hopefully we can set a fire here on the battleship, who's relatively stationary. There we go, we were able to avoid his return fire. However, there is a problem as I am kiting away from the Prince Eitel Friedrich, and that means that with my short range, I can only fire a couple of salvos before I am no longer within firing range. I do get really lucky there with the fire though, and as you can see, I am now at 13.8 and 13.9 kilometers away and out of firing range. So I've got to turn around once again here, and hopefully I'll be able to get a little bit closer to our Mutsu and help provide a little bit of AA fire against the enemy strike planes. So the Devonshire is definitely one of those ships where you have to be in that Goldilocks zone, not too far out where you cannot fire upon your enemies, but also not too close where you don't have time to maneuver to avoid incoming shells. But it looks like between the Mutsu and myself, we were able to shred the enemy attack planes, and now I'm able to push back into the middle of the map to help my team. I'm following our Anshan in here and giving him several kilometers lead so that he can spot the enemy ships and allow me to ambush them with my good concealment. Our Anshan does spot the Gnevny, so I turn my guns, but I wait till he's a little bit closer before I open fire. So here we go, our first salvo is out as the enemy planes come in to attack our Anshan, and we score only 2 hits. So I take a little bit more time to aim my second salvo on the Gnevny, and second salvo is out, and this one's a little bit better. I land 4 shells, which leaves him on just over 300 HP, so our Anshan is able to take him out. Our counterpart Devonshire gets spotted, so I immediately switch my targets to him. My first salvo is out, and at just under 13 kilometers, we're able to get a fire and damage his steering, so he immediately repairs. I shoot my second salvo, this one looks good, and we're able to take him out. So that's our first kill of the game. I also switched to AP there in case I did not kill the Devonshire with my second volley and got a broadside shot at him. Unfortunately, that also means that I now have AP loaded, and while the Alba is behind the island, I thought maybe I would be able to take out the Prince Eitel Friedrich at 13 kilometers away. Unfortunately, the battleship is actually angling away, and so my AP salvo really doesn't do anything here. Kind of unfortunate, as if I had HE loaded, I might have had a chance to light him on fire and finish him off. I also launched a torpedo salvo out there against the Farragut just to make sure that he doesn't push out around the island towards me. So now my AP salvo is out against the Alba. Unfortunately, I get a straddle with minimal damage, and now I've switched back to high explosive. Take my time to aim at the Alba and look around, make sure nothing's shooting at me, and our salvo is true and we take out the Alba.
Enemy cruiser sunk.
I'm going to slow down right here and use the island up ahead of me for a bit of cover against the torpedoes, as well as potentially limiting the vision from the team that is pushing up from the north. In the meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and take some shots out on the Ranger and just make sure that I slow down, avoid the torpedoes, but it looks like the New Mexico over there has taken a shot at me, and as you can see, my armor really doesn't count for anything, and I take 6,000 damage. I fire my second salvo against the Ranger here behind the island, but I don't think I measured that right. In any case, he gets taken out by our Mutsu, so the Ranger is now no longer a threat. My next target is that London that's pushing up from the north, and I take my time though to get my ship moving before I start firing at the enemy cruiser, because I don't want to be a sitting target against that New Mexico up ahead. So I take my time. The Furious actually takes out the enemy Friedrich, so that's a good thing for us. And now I can shoot at the London from behind the island here. My first salvo is out. Not too bad. And as I push forward, I'm gonna take my second salvo out on London. I do get spotted here though as I fire. And I'm just gonna turn back in to avoid the island. My second salvo is a little bit lucky. I do get a fire on the London, and looks like he is burning, and I'm able to just kind of make my turn and not get stuck on the island here. I'm going to push up a little bit slowly here though, because I don't know if the London has actually launched torpedoes my way before he rounded that island. So just take it nice and slow and make sure I don't get caught by torpedoes. As it turns out, the London does get taken out by fire, so we're going to move up and see if we can catch that Farragut who is now in our cap. I also make sure that I angle my ship out a little bit, but still in the relative direction of where the London was sailing in case those torpedoes were launched. But it does look like I'm pretty safe here. It doesn't look like the London launched any torpedoes before he went down, so that's good for me. And I'm pushing up here again, trying my best to get towards our cap to ambush that Farragut. But as you can see, the Devonshire really isn't a very fast ship at all. I'm almost to my maximum speed here, 32 knots, but I really won't even touch 33, and if that's even with speed flag as well on the ship. So between the New Mexico and the Farragut, they actually take out our Bayern who was up north defending. And there was really not much I could do there because I just didn't have the speed nor the gun range to help our Bayern. Now, the New Mexico is within range here though, but I'm actually going to hold my fire because I don't want that frigate to know that I'm actually here, and I want to get the element of surprise as much as possible. Now, however, once we are much closer, I'm going to go ahead and activate my hydroacoustic search right here to see where the Farragut is. And now I know he's right there, about 3 kilometers away. I'm going to launch torpedoes in front of him to block off any forward movement that he is able to do. I round the island and put 8 out of 8 shells into the side of the stationary Farragut and do 8,300 damage. So the Farragut tries to accelerate, but my torpedoes block him off, which gives me enough time to load my guns and fire my second salvo to take him out. And we immediately slow down and turn in as Hydro is able to tell us where the torpedo tracks are, so we are able to avoid his return torpedoes. It looks like the enemy New Mexico is focused on our Mutsu on the other side of the map, and so once we're sure that we won't get hit by any torpedoes, we aim for the New Mexico. Our first volley is high to make sure that we hit his superstructure, and we get a fire which he puts out. And our second volley, we're going to aim just directly at his frontal plate because we know that with our 203mm guns we are able to get through the frontal plate of New Mexico and take him out for our Kraken Unleashed achievement. So at this point in the game, I think we have it in the bag. We have 2 carriers, a cruiser and a battleship against 1 remaining enemy carrier. We know he was spotted up north, so I'm going to push right into him. And it looks like our carriers have spotted him as well. The vessel is still where he was last located, and he's actually pushing in towards us, which is great because now we are able to shoot at him at 14 kilometers. Our first salvo against the vessel wasn't a very good one, and we only land one shell hit as the vessel takes out our Mutsu on the other side of the map who was trying to cap. Our second salvo though is a little bit better. We get 5 penetrations and a fire for a little bit over 5,000 damage. Now, I do have to be a little bit careful though, because the vessel's rocket attack planes that he's sending against me can definitely hurt, as you'll see here in a moment. But this also highlights the AA capabilities of the Devonshire. Within about 2 kilometers, the AA guns of the Devonshire are actually pretty good. I launched my torpedoes here against the vessel. We also just got a Confederate for our last salvo. His attack fighters are circling in again for another strike. My torpedoes are in the water. I switched to AP here as I think he might give me a good broadside. We take quite a bit of damage from the attack planes, but here we go. We're gonna fire our AP salvo and our torpedoes land just in time, and we take out the vessel for our 6th kill. Now let's take a look at the post-game stats. So we did a little bit over 103,000 damage in this game for our Confederate, Kraken Unleashed, and Dreadnought achievements. We were top of the team with 2,392 base experience, which is really nice in a tier 6 game. We hit 10 out of 12 enemy ships and sunk 6 in this game. And you can also see the performance of both the HE and AP shells in the Devonshire. While the HE shells are definitely more consistent, I think the AP can hit very hard as well, as you saw against the Pensacola early in the game and against the Vesser at the end. We weren't very lucky with our fires though in this game, as we only got 8 fires and about 8,000 damage. For anyone interested, here are the equipment and captain skills I use on the Devonshire. Main armaments mod 1, and general protection, aiming systems, and steering gears mod 1 to make the Devonshire a little bit more maneuverable and able to avoid incoming shells. For captain skills, I have gun feeder, priority target, superintendent, and concealment. And you can definitely use pyrotechnician and adrenaline rush as well if you have the points. So, the Devonshire, it's a heavy cruiser only in terms of having large caliber guns, and I'm not sure it's really a major upgrade over the Hawkins. Sure, you get a few bump ups in terms of guns, torpedoes, and maneuverability, but you're also in a tier 6 ship now. You get the same +2 -1 matchmaking, but you'll be facing tier 8s. And your ship doesn't bounce much of anything, while the Hawkins at least had some usable armor. I definitely recommend spending the free XP to get both the fire control system and hull upgrade before starting your grind. I was cheap and only free XP the fire control systems and found the stock hull a bit too unwieldy to avoid incoming shots. And that probably contributed to me losing my first 5 games in the ship and coloring my perspective a bit. Once fully upgraded though, and if you can work with the short range guns, it's not too bad. The HE is consistent and having a repair party is great. Open maps are going to be a problem though, and you also need to make sure you don't push in too far into the enemy team just to keep your guns firing. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please feel free to hit the like button or subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. And please join me again next week for more World of Warships videos. Thank you for watching and take care.